Hey everyone, I'm going to show you a few things so it can help you all manage our new system for our actions and consequences. As we can see here, what we talked about at our PD, after one cut, we'll have a verbal warning that we want to put in our contact log. After three, we're going to make a phone call home, also put it in the contact log. After five cuts, we'll make another phone call and assign them to detention. And after seven, another phone call and assign them to parent conference. And then after 10 cuts, admin will assign a suspension after a suspension request is put in. So, as far as finding out the information we need to know if a kid is cutting or if they're just absent from school, we go into, you can go campus tools, search, type in a student's last name, and sorry, I already had the other tab open. So this is what will normally pop up the first time around. You have all these tabs here next to summary. We can see enrollments or schedule. Attendance is a tab I think most people are familiar with. The one that kind of hides from us is the attendance swipe tab. So we're going to utilize this attendance swipe to check our building attendance. So this has every day of the school year, if the student swiped in or not. So as you can see, this student, when they swiped in after 9 a.m., they are marked late to the building. And this child is scanning in using their ID. Sometimes you'll see, instead of the word scan, it'll say manual. All that means is that the child typed in their number rather than swiping their ID. When a child is absent, you will not see any information. The time of swipe will be 0000. There won't be any information for the swipe method or kiosk, and it will say A for absent. Now, today is the 21st, so that information hasn't been finalized yet. So you can see right around 4:30 every day, the information gets finalized. So for today, this child swiped in at 8:08, but there is this kind of lag information here. You can just ignore that. The child did swipe in. On the 18th, though, which has already been processed, that child did not swipe in at all, so they are marked absent, and we can see that that's been verified at the end of the day there. So if I had a student who was absent, let's say that my student was absent on the 17th, all right, they didn't come to my class. It looks like that child did go to their other classes, so this does look like a cut. But just to be sure, we want to check over at our attendance swipe and see for the 17th if the child did swipe in, and the child did swipe in at 9:17, so that is indeed a cut. All right, so those are the two tabs we're going to use to double check that information. From there, I can go back to this index tab. Right now we are in the student information general tab. I want to go down to response to intervention general tab. So let's say that was this child's first cut. I spoke to the child and addressed the consequences that could lead to more cuts and for them to not let it happen again. So I come over here, I click on general, I go to contact log, and I press new. Once you press new, this whole bottom section is going to pop up. So I just had this conversation with the child, so I will go to in person. All right, so my contact will be student verbal warning. You can write, the student's name here. I'm just writing something for an example. The details, child cut class on 3/17, spoke with child today so they understand future cutting consequences. Something along those lines, guys. This is not a script. You do not have to write these things. I'm just writing something so that later down the road, we have a record that you did speak with this child. You press save, and it pops up right up top. And if you want to double check or edit, you can do that by just clicking on it and going back in here. Let's say, you didn't want it to be in person, you did a home visit. I don't think you would do that, but if you needed to change that, you could. All right? And for future contacts, right? So after the child cuts a third time and you make that first phone call home, you will select however you spoke to the parent or reached out to the parent. And like we spoke about in the PD, it's important to understand that even if you don't hear back from the parent, or even if all the phone numbers don't work, you want to make a note of that. So if you did call home, all numbers listed in SIS, no phone number was working when I called. Again, this would be, maybe you should write, I probably should write, student cut class a third time. And then, say that you were not successful in getting through to any of the phone numbers. If you send an email, you would say send an email. Text messages count, please, if, sometimes parents are at work and it's easier for them to see a text message than it is to answer the phone at that moment in time. So there's plenty of options. Please just select the one that makes the most sense. And once you're done, just make sure you press save, and that information will be saved in the contact log. As far as how you can keep record of all these things in your class, some teachers have come to me with some of their ideas. I don't want to tell you that you have to do it a certain way. Whatever works for your organization in your classroom, I want to support you. So as we go down the path of cuts, there is the option on SIS for you to go back to this main page and select reports. From reports, we can go to blank spreadsheet. So you can select your class that you want to print a blank spreadsheet for, and create a PDF. So what this is going to do is this will set it up so that if a child, you can use this for your daily attendance if you really wanted to have a hard record of it. You could say, 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts, 4 cuts, so on, and put the dates that the child cut one time and the date they cut a second time, so you can keep your own record. I thought this was a good idea. This was brought to my attention by Mr. Cunningham, just so you have access quickly to some information. So if a kid cuts and you checked, you don't have to check a million different places in order to find that information. What number cut are you on? Okay, so this is our general idea. The last thing is just, when you do get to this threshold of 5 cuts, please make sure you fill out the consequence form. So once the child cuts 5 times, you're going to make that second phone call, and you want to assign a detention. So how this is going to work is you can click on our drop down that the child has cut 5 times. The child is in 11th grade. The child's name is Child. and their last name is Example. And then they cut on the 18th. And if you wanted to write any kind of notes, whatever you wanted to do, you know, maybe this would be an example if the child came to class and left after 15 minutes and then you never saw them again, you could write that in here. Or if they showed up, you know, with 30 minutes left. As Ms. Stidman clarified for us on Friday, if a child misses more than 50% of your class, that does count as a cut. So, you know, if they are out of your classroom, whether they come in the beginning and then pop in at the end, if they're gone for the major chunk in between, that does count as a cut. So you will put this information in and submit that, and then an email will go to everyone who needs it to go to, and we'll have your email so we'll know that it came from you, and you're good. So if there's any questions or comments, or anyone is just brainstorming and thinking of good ideas, I would really appreciate it. Please reach out anytime, and I look forward to collaborating with everyone and making this happen as a team.